Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, members of the press, fellow Americans, my friends, esteemed brethren, citizens, fellow patriots, all television viewers, staff of the Smothers Brothers show, excluding writers, the vast CBS network, President Kim LeMasters, all races and creeds, everyone on this planet within the sound of my voice, bigots, drunks, and perverts. My allotted speaking time has run out. So in conclusion, as I campaign through this wonderful land, kissing hands and shaking babies, people want to know my stance on the issues. The national deficit. Well, we'll just turn it into a government program, then we'll start cutting back, and then we'll eliminate it entirely. Social Security hasn't worked. Now, they started Social Security in the 30s to solve the old people problem, and now we got more old people than we ever had before. Why do we have to help them? They don't do anything. Just sit around all day. If they were 30 years younger, they'd be called bums. Kidding, of course. Now, we take care of the old folks in our family. Grandma Paulsen lives right with us. We built a little lean-to in the back, and she's good company for the dog. Unemployment. Now, I was on unemployment once. Hated going there, long lines. Always made me late for work. Crime in the streets. Nothing to worry about. My sister used to walk the streets, never got hurt. As a matter of fact, she became independently wealthy. The draft. We had to start the draft again. Draft women. It could work. They could nag the other side into surrendering. Safe sex. Now, there are many ways to have safe sex. All of them are effective, and none of them are any fun. The surest way to have safe sex is to have no sex at all. Now, married people have been practicing this for years. One way to have safe sex is to imagine you're in bed with Willard Scott and wait till the urge passes. Mandatory urine testing. I'm against it. You know, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him pee. I say let's not diddle in other people's piddle. A burning issue, of course, is our Central American policy regarding the Sandinistas and the Contras. They should be allowed to work out their differences and get together as one to become the International Nicaragua Sandinista Contraceptive Marching Band. In closing, folks, those are the issues. And remember the Pat Paulsen for President slogan, I've upped my standards, now up yours.
Thank you. In a few days, the voters will go to the polls and elect a man to ruin the country. I mean, run the country. All the other candidates are making 11th hour appeals seeking a convincing mandate from the people. And the people are making 11th hour appeals for a convincing candidate. The polls show Nixon leading both Humphrey and Wallace with 14% undecided and 36% disgusted. Various voting systems will be used in this election. First, there's the plain old X on the ballot. Then there's voting by machine. And this year, many of you have indicated you will use yet another method, the eeny, meeny, miny, moe system. I have here an open letter to the other candidates in this election. To Herbert Humphrey, why do you keep predicting that you're going to do the same thing that Harry Truman did to Tom Dewey in 1948? This is 1968, Herbert, so you better forget about Dewey and worry about Nixon and Wallace. Next, part is addressed to Richard Nixon. Since you've been running out in front for so long, why not change your image by turning around and running backwards for a while? That way, at least we'll get a different view of you. And finally, a message for George Wallace. I commend you for your efforts in promoting racial unity. Never before has one man done so much to unite the American Negro. Now, with the election only 2 days off, this, of course, is my last chance to talk to you straight as a person rather than a performer, and to tell you how I really feel. I feel proud to live in a country where the people are not afraid to laugh at themselves, a country where political satire such as this is at least tolerated by the government, if not the television networks. I'm honored by the fact that many thousands of you have indicated in the public opinion polls that you really do plan to vote for me. But please don't waste your vote if there really is a candidate that you can support. I hope you will look for a candidate who offers the best hope for world peace and a man who is interested in equality and justice along with law and order. And so as the campaign draws to a close, I want to remind you that many of my opponents will attempt to sway you with emotional appeals. That's not for me. I never resort to such tactics. I wouldn't think of a thing like that. Let's stick to the issues in this campaign without benefit of emotionalism. Pay no attention to my distinguished war record. I want you to disregard the fact that I've invested my life savings in this campaign and that the entire future of my poor family hangs on the outcome. Please do not be influenced by the fact that I've never won anything before, that I've never held any high office like my opponents, and that I need to win so that my kids can have a daddy they can be proud of. Forget all that and look at me as a symbol. I know that people realize my campaign is just a joke. They really don't want me to become president. So look me in the eye and tell me you won't waste your vote on me, America. The important thing... The important thing when you walk into that voting booth to select your president is to forget the emotionalism and the flag waving. Just remember one thing. Just remember which candidate stood up for America. So it's your decision now. I won't try to make it for you. And God bless America. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the ocean, white with foam. My fellow Americans, I come to you tonight with a heavy liver. This nation stands divided as never before, torn between the forces of tyranny and repression. It is a struggle which, in the case of Herbert Humphrey, has turned brother against brother, president against vice president. In the words of Spiro Agnew, it has turned Americans of Polish descent against the overweight Japanese Americans. Well, that's not exactly the way he phrased it. That's the way Mr. Nixon wishes he had phrased it. Tonight, I would like to rise above partisan politics and welcome a new candidate into the race, George Wallace's vice presidential running mate, General Curtis LeMay. He has not only added strength to the Wallace platform, but has given him the military power with which to implement it. Let us be fair and clear up the misunderstanding about General LeMay's stand on the use of nuclear weapons. He did not say he advocates the use of nuclear weapons at this time. He merely favors using whatever force is necessary to and including nuclear weapons to stop the demonstrators. Which brings me to the final point of the evening, the war in Vietnam. The other candidates warn that if we pull out, we run the risk of losing face. Bull feathers. I'd like to clear up this issue once and for all. In my opinion, losing face is not the most important problem. We're already losing a part of our anatomy that's a lot more vital than our face.
This is Washington, the heart of our nation. The lifeblood of power flows in from all corners of America. Here is where that lifeblood gathers and settles and clots. The people of Washington understand politics. They know the problems of campaigning. This is the perfect place for me to test the political waters. I took my campaign to the Washington Monument and to the White House. This is the White House, the home of our president. Other candidates have criticized the president. They say he's lazy. They call him a lame duck. Well, I say bull feathers. Our president is not lazy. He has a two-pronged responsibility. He must supervise the day-to-day workings of the White House staff, and second, he must pardon them. Naturally, I used this opportunity to raise funds for my campaign. I looked for the people of power and influence. Well, this campaign's expensive. I don't have a lot. Yes? Well, it's quartered. Probably a senator. Run for president, I certainly must have quite a bit of money. You and I.
That's true.
Right, there you go. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. I found people eager to support my campaign for president. And everywhere I went, the press followed. George Bush is running on a platform that says he's familiar with the problems of the presidency, and I think that makes sense since he caused a lot of them. People want to know if the Democrats have a man capable of winning the presidency. I don't think they have anybody capable of winning the nomination. Well, there should be daycare centers, and there should be daycare centers where you can drop the kids off without coming to a complete stop. Everywhere here in Washington, you find reminders of the greatness of America's presidents. Ask yourself, America, is there a man of greatness today? Ask yourself, is there a man waiting to step into the highest office of the land? Ask yourself, America, is there a candidate whose time has come? Now, I know that's a lot of questions, America, but they're all yes, no. So if you don't know the answers, you could probably guess.
Pat Paulsen, a man whose time has come and almost gone. Paid for by the Pat Paulsen Election Jihad.
Is this a man Congress could support? One distinguished lawmaker gives his reactions to our reporter.
Senator Kennedy, I suppose you've heard that Pat Paulsen is running for the office of president. We understand he's making President Johnson now very nervous. How do you feel about his candidacy?
Well, I think he's a very nice man, and I think that he's come forward and expressed himself on the issues, but I do think that he's looking at his campaign, watching carefully how he's moved. I think he has peaked a little early.
Thank you, Senator.
An SBC report. We now take you to the front gate of the White House in Washington, D.C.
Mr. Paulsen, we're surprised to find you here lined up outside the White House. Are you going to take the tour?
Well, I didn't receive any invitation, so I thought I'd have to. It's like real estate.
kind of like to look it over a little, like before you buy. You understand? And we're kind of looking forward to going through it, seeing what it looks like. The little woman is very interested in looking, seeing what it's like in there. I don't worry. I'm more interested in the affairs of state, of course, and other affairs. Mrs. Paulsen, what are you going to look at when you see the White House?
Well, I'm taking a course in interior decorating, and I just wanted to see how I could apply it here at the White House.
We're going to do the Gold Room over in Norwegian Modern.
Pat Paulsen, the makings of a president. Could this humble man be the next chief executive of our country? And if so, America asks, how does Paulsen feel about making his home at the White House?
Mr. Paulsen, now that you've toured the White House, what were your impressions?
Yes, we enjoyed going through and looking at it. I sort of feel, though, that seen one White House, you've seen them all.
Candidate Paulsen retraces the steps of the great men who came before him. You can't help but wonder if Lyndon Johnson got his start this way. First stop for Paulsen, the historic Potomac River. A champion of economy and government, he throws a $50 across the Potomac. A mighty wind-up and no luck. A second try. And then another. $11.50 later, he turns his back on the Potomac. Pat pauses to reflect on his nation's future. One way, says Paulsen, there's only one way for America to go, sideways. Step by step, the man of the year retraces the path of history to the famous Lincoln Memorial, where he encounters the inevitable throng of indifferent admirers who respond with ardent apathy as he hands out his campaign buttons. Until a week ago, this young man was a Romney supporter. Now he's solidly in the Paulsen camp. Alone with his thoughts, Paulsen recalls the words of his idol Abraham Lincoln. The great emancipator looks down upon the candidate as though to say, here is a man for America. Yes, Pat Paulsen, that's something to think about. Is this the leader the United States has been calling for? Is this a man Congress could support? One distinguished lawmaker gives his reactions to our reporter.
Senator Kennedy, I suppose you've heard that Pat Paulsen is running for the office of president. We understand he's making President Johnson now very nervous. How do you feel about his candidacy?
Well, I think he's a very nice man, and I think that he's come forward and expressed himself on the issues, but I do think that he's looking at his campaign, watching carefully how he's moved. I think he has peaked a little early.
Thank you, Senator.
We ask other concerned citizens this question. What do you think of Pat Paulsen for president?
Well, I take an automatic, violent reaction to it. Opposed. I think we have a fine First Lady in the White House as it is, and Pat Paulsen is a girl.
The truth is, you see, I don't really know Pat Paulsen, because I've never seen the show, so I can't really say.
What is your reaction to the announcement of the candidacy of Pat Paulsen for President of the United States?
For President of the United States? Pat Paulsen?
It's an upsetting and a ridiculous idea that he would run for president, if that's what you're saying. Though, the way things are, he'd probably be a good president.
Pat Paulsen turns me on.
To tell you the truth, I think the chances of Pat Paulsen, I would say Harold Stasson has a better chance than Pat Paulsen.
So, I wanted to ask you, Pierre, if... candidacy. I'm hoping you'll back me. I know you've had a lot of successes in the past, and although you haven't always made it, but I'm curious to know if you would be willing to back me.
I think you make a great president of the West Hollywood Rotary Club.
You're not going to go along with it.
I'm going all the way with you for president of the West Hollywood Rotary Club.
Well, there you have it. Backing from Pierre Salinger in the Hollywood area. So all you people in Hollywood know that he'll be backing me.
Pat Paulsen?
Senator Murphy, could you give me your opinions on the fact that Mr. Pat Paulsen now has thrown his hat in the ring as a presidential candidate? What are your feelings about his candidacy?
First of all, I would think that under the conditions this year, he ought to keep a string tied to the hat in case he wants to get it back. Because that track is going to get so crowded, his hat's liable to get tromped on, and he won't be able to find it if he needs it in case he shouldn't get elected. But I do think that it's fine, it's in the American custom, and I hope we have so many candidates that they'll have to run it in 3 events like they did one of the big races at Santa Anita.
Do you feel that Pat Paulsen has a good shot at the presidency?
Well, I don't know. I haven't seen him throw any snowballs at photographers in New Hampshire yet, and that's the only way I can gauge the opportunities of the candidates so far. So that's all right. So far, I think that Senator McCarthy is ahead. He seems to have the best slider with a soft snowball.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
And so Americans turn in increasing numbers to this man of the hour, this leader of his people, this humble savior of America's destiny. Pat Paulsen, man with his eye on the White House.
Pat Paulsen.